This evening, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York has confirmed the arrest of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried in the Bahamas. Officials in the Bahamas say the former cryptocurrency CEO was arrested after they were made aware of charges filed against him in the U.S. The Prime Minister of the Bahamas says the two countries have a shared interest in holding Bankman-Fried accountable while the U.S. pursues charges against the tech founder. The Bahamas will continue a separate investigation.
Federal prosecutors have dropped the charge against ex-FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried that he violated campaign finance rules, according to the New York Times. Bankman-Fried was charged with fraud and campaign violations in December after his crypto company caved in. The prosecutor's filing said, quote, "In keeping with its treaty obligations to the Bahamas, the government does not intend to proceed to trial on the campaign contributions count." According to authorities, Bankman-Fried and other FTX employees used customers' deposits to make $90 million in campaign contributions to approximately 300 political candidates or PACs. Journalist Glenn Greenwald tweeted, "Congrats to Sam Bankman-Fried, the Democratic Party's second largest donor behind George Soros, on having his campaign finance fraud charges dropped by the Biden DOJ. Their hilarious claim is that they just couldn't proceed because the big, powerful Bahamas wouldn't let them."
We are getting word that Sam Bankman-Fried has been found guilty of the charges. We cannot confirm how many charges he has been found guilty yet of. There were 7 counts, including wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, as well as conspiracy to commit money laundering and a number of others.
U.S. prosecutors dropped plans for a second trial of Sam Bankman-Fried, founder of the now bankrupt FTX cryptocurrency exchange. In a letter filed in a Manhattan federal court Friday, prosecutors said strong public interest in a prompt resolution of their case against Bankman-Fried outweighed the benefits of a second trial. Bankman-Fried was accused of looting $8 billion from FTX customers out of sheer greed. Last month, he was convicted of fraud and conspiracy and would have faced a second set of 6 charges, including campaign finance violations, conspiracy to commit bribery, and others. Those 6 charges were severed from his first trial. That's because the Bahamas, where FTX was based, had not approved them as part of Bankman-Fried's extradition to the U.S. in December 2022. The 31-year-old former billionaire's sentencing on March 28th will likely include orders of forfeiture and restitution for victims of his crimes. His verdict came nearly a year after FTX filed for bankruptcy, erasing his once $26 billion fortune in one of the fastest collapses of a major participant in U.S. financial markets. Bankman-Fried testified at trial that he made mistakes running FTX, but maintained he did not steal customer funds. He is expected to appeal his conviction.
And joining me now is Sam Bankman-Fried. He's the CEO of the cryptocurrency exchange FTX. You may have seen their TV ads occasionally, and one of America's youngest billionaires. And recently he's used that money to become one of the biggest donors in this year's midterm elections. Sam, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Of course.
So let me start. You're the 4th, you may not know this, but you know it now. You're the 4th largest individual donor, essentially, to the midterms for this cycle. You are on a list that includes George Soros, Ken Griffin, Richard Uihlein, Peter Thiel, just below you. Why did you decide it was politics and not something more charitable to spend your money on?
It's a good question. And, to be clear, we have also given, I think, upwards of $100 million this year to charity.
I'm not saying you're not charitable,
but,
right?
But
you've chosen to engage politically.
This, right, exactly. Yeah. And I think that what it really goes down to is 2 things. And the first is that policy really matters, right? I think COVID is one of the clearest examples of this, where we did not, as a country or as a world, frankly, have a coherent response to COVID. And we missed in both directions. Mm-hmm. It was careening wildly around, and we still haven't learned the lesson.
There are going to be some people who watch this and say, rich guy's got his own agenda here. He's not telling us. Why shouldn't folks be a little bit skeptical of your real motives here? That this is really all about crypto. This is really all about your business, which is regulating what you do.
Right. It's a good question. And frankly, everyone should always be skeptical of things like this, right? I'm not going to tell people that they should give anyone a free pass on it. And I think what I'd say is, look at the evidence, try and trace out what's happening.
But you now will have lawmakers return your calls a lot easier than the average person, right? So your money is effective in that respect, and you are going to be able to make your case in front of members of Congress because you're willing to spend money. Have you thought about that?
I think it's probably true. And frankly, I think that there's value from the pandemic prevention side there, being able to, again, get in front of them and say, hey, look, this is a big issue.
You think every money you spend in politics should be disclosed publicly? Are you comfortable with that?
I think that I think what I would say is, if there was a norm where every dollar that everyone donated in politics was to be disclosed publicly, I would have a lot of sympathy for that. I think I might support it. I haven't thought carefully about it enough to know. But
well, it sounds like what you're saying is maybe there's some donations that you have made that you wouldn't make if you knew they were going to be immediately public.
So I think I don't generally think about it that way. I generally think of it as like these are the right the right contributions to make. I think that and I think that there is a thing where it's important what the norms are because that's what press is going to judge everything by, right? And it's important that there is the right context.
You have talked that $1 billion is perhaps your ceiling for 2024. How would you imagine spending that? Candidates or your own organization to maybe educate the public?
So it all is going to depend on the details. And I really do mean that in that.
Does it depend on who's running? Does it depend on if it's Biden and Trump type of thing?
That's one thing it's going to depend on. And it's not just the presidency as well. It's more generally like, I want to support great public servants.
According to authorities, Bankman-Fried and other FTX employees used customers' deposits to make $90 million in campaign contributions to approximately 300 political candidates or PACs.
And I think what I'd say is, look at the evidence, try and trace out what's happening.